Good afternoon or good morning, depending where you're at here in the United States. Very excited to have you guys on today to talk about lead generation and automation with the audience here from IBPI. We're going to focus on how do you maximize your business potential, really be able to controllably predict and grow that pipeline. So, Mark, thanks so much for having us on today.
Hey, thank you, Shawn, and I want to welcome all of the attendees and all of the IBPI members that are joining us today. We are thrilled that Quantum and Shawn have joined the IBPI family. Shawn presented to the IBPI Board of Directors just a few months ago, back in February, and he really just wowed us with his knowledge and expertise in this area. And we felt like we had to bring him on as a part of our group. And we were very fortunate that we were able to secure him and bring him into the family. So also thrilled that he was able to take the time out of his schedule today and kind of give us some insight as to what Quantum is and what Quantum does and what they can do for IBPI members in any company, really. So, Shawn, thank you for putting this on today. Thank you for your time, and really looking forward to hearing what you have to say today. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you having us. Before we move into the less important stuff, I think the most important thing here is I see University of Florida.
Yeah, go Gators.
I kind of wanted to remind you of the 1995 Fiesta Bowl. So I grew up a big Husker fan, and that was a good game for us. One of our last ones, unfortunately, but was a good game, 28 years ago.
Well, I've blocked that one out of my memory. So thank you for bringing it up, though.
That's funny. Real quick, guys, just a little bit about me so you understand where I'm coming from. I grew up in the office technology space. I spent several years at a mid-sized office equipment company as the vice president of sales, oversaw business analytics, helped build out inside sales, bring marketing together and some other functions within that organization, then moved on to become the CEO of a different company for a couple of years before founding Quantum. And the reason that I founded Quantum and my vision was that there's a lot more efficient and effective way to go to market for B2B businesses, but especially office technology providers with the cross-selling opportunities, the upselling opportunities, and then the ability to create velocity in the net new. So excited to be here. Grateful for the opportunity to be part of the IBPI family and looking forward to helping a lot of you that join this call and others that'll watch it in the future. So what should you guys expect from today's webinar? We really want to give you guys insights into how AI and automation is affecting modern go-to-market strategies at the strategic level and the tactical level. We're going to give you some strategies for achieving greater efficiency and talk about the 5 key components of the quantum growth model. And then ultimately, how do you enhance your lead generation? And we talk about doing more with less or a lot more with the same. So whenever I visit with a CEO or a vice president of sales from an office equipment provider, they're always looking for, if they could find them, great sales talent. And that's the phrase that's usually used. And what we're here to help you do is take the sales talent that's already inside of your doors and inside the walls that you have now and help bring efficiency and more productivity. In a perfect world, we'd love your top salespeople to spend 8 hours a day in front of clients doing the 2 things they do best, which is building relationships and talking business, and ultimately leading to closing deals. So that's what we're here to help you do. At any point during today's webinar, if you think you've seen enough that you want to schedule some time on my calendar, I'm going to personally meet with people that book from this link. Go ahead and scan the QR code in the bottom right-hand corner of the slides. That'll take you to a HubSpot calendar link of mine, and you'll be able to book some time with me, and we can talk about how we could help your organization specifically. So we talk a lot about how do we systemize, optimize, and automate all of the 5 key components of the quantum growth model, really the go-to-market strategy. And every great go-to-market strategy is going to have 5 key components. Who are we targeting? How are we going to attract them to us? Nurture them through the pipeline, convert them into a customer, and then wow them for a cross-sell, upsell. And so if you think about an hourglass shape, right, you want to start with the target, attract, nurture, convert, and then you want to be able to fan out and cross-sell, upsell, and gain referrals from that same customer base. So when it comes to systemizing, optimizing, and automating, each of those goes on all 5 of the components. And we'll talk a little bit about mapping out your go-to-market strategy, actually putting down documentation, and really then next layering on KPIs or key performance indicators to see where the opportunities for efficiency are, where you can get the most leverage with the least resistance in the quickest amount of time. So sales and marketing, AI and automation, I think there's still, as much as these have grown in the last couple of years, there's still a lot of room for education on this piece. A lot of people don't know that with something like Connect and Sell, you can make 1,500 dials in a day. And if you have really good revenue operations, which the #1 job title in the country right now is Chief Revenue Officer, right? Revenue operations, how do you get everything to talk, the data, et cetera. You're going to be able to potentially have a conversation with 100+ individuals in a day. Just at a 10 to 15% conversion rate into meeting, you guys could set a couple hundred meetings with one rep. I mean, that you'd really have to be getting after it, but it's not uncommon for a quantum sales development rep to set 60 to 80+ meetings in a month, one SDR. We know $100 and $200 million companies that aren't setting nearly that many with their whole team. And they'll have 5, 10, 15 people. I think we've talked to people who are definitely in the 9 digits, so we don't give away who they are. And I believe they had 15 SDRs and we're setting around 120 a month. So that's what a tool like Connect and Sell can do. There's some AI to it. It's taken hundreds of millions of dials, and it actually has a feature which dials the numbers that are most likely to pick up. Next is Zoom Info. So how do you create automated go-to-market motions within a tool like Zoom Info? When we run across a current company that's using Zoom Info, a lot of times they're using it nearly like a Google. So they're going in, they're grabbing some cell phone numbers, grabbing some emails, but it's not really in a systemized go-to-market motion. Imagine that all of your dream prospects, right, your dream targets, automatically flowed from Zoom Info into HubSpot or Salesforce, but HubSpot in this case. Automated nurture campaign went off, and then as they engaged with that content enough, it sent them to something like Connect and Sell that's auto dialing. And now your rep is talking to a warmed up lead that no one in the organization has ever touched before. And it's all automated and systemized with AI and then good operations on the revenue operations side. And then lastly, another example is HubSpot. So working with a $100 million plus a year company right now, give you an example, they've had 4,800 website visitors that are in their HubSpot visit their website in the past 180 days. The problem is they hadn't enriched those and they didn't know exactly who these people were. So we went and helped them put Zoom Info into HubSpot. HubSpot's keeping track of exactly down to the person who visited the website. Now we've been able to get those out and send hundreds of leads over to sales that would have been unidentified before. So again, there's different tools in each area, but really for target, attract, nurture, convert, and wow, there are tools that will automate and systemize and leverage AI for each of the 5 key components of the quantum growth model. So real quick here, survey. Which of these tools do you guys currently use or have in place today? None of the above. Okay, 1 is HubSpot, 2 of none of the above. All right, so it looks like there's a lot of organizations on today as a percentage that aren't using any of these tools. We have a small percentage using HubSpot, nobody with Connect and Sell, and nobody on today's call with Zoom Info. So that shows you that by leveraging these, you can quickly get out in front of the competition and take advantage of the technology that's in front of you. This stuff is table stakes, guys. And in 5 years, the way that we would never take cell phones away from our salespeople, we won't take these tools away from our salespeople either. Everyone's going to be on a parallel dialer. Everyone's going to be using AI and automation. And you can either be a front runner and a leader, which I'd even almost say you're kind of starting to get to the second phase of early adopters now. You're not on the bleeding edge. The cutting edge is where people have been. And now you're probably starting to really get into that early adopter stage on the bell curve. So what's the current environment look like for you guys in a B2B office technology company? Well, there's some problems with speed to market, struggling to meet the budgetary goals, right? Especially if you're churning that print side of your business on the contract, and you keep having to sell more and more just to hold even, because the cost of equipment's going down, the cost of financing's going up, the cost of prints is going down, and in some cases there's less prints, of course, as well. So you're having to fight a lot of market conditions just to keep your business steady, right? Just to keep the revenue the same. So speed to market, and then the budgetary goals can be a challenge, right? Lack of results. So hiring a lot of salespeople. About everyone we talk to, if we say, hey, if you hire 10 salespeople, how many are going to be here in a year being productive? They'll usually say between 1 and 3 is a common answer. So you guys already know that at least 70% of the time, you're not going to get the results you were looking for out of the people you hire, yet we keep making that same investment over and over. Why don't we invest into better processes and technology to take our people that are already there and are successful and make them more effective with their time? It's really hard to find great sales closers. Let's take the ones that we have and put them in front of more opportunities. Responding to ever-changing market conditions. So we all know things are changing extremely fast in the business world, and especially in this office technology and managed service provider space. Underperforming teams is a common challenge that we see. Staffing issues, as we just mentioned. And then really it's just a lack of processes and go-to-market. Out of hundreds of companies that we've worked with and dealt with, no one has mapped out their entire go-to-market strategy before they worked with us. So if you can see that visually, right? Target, attract, nurture, convert, and wow, and it's all mapped out, and you've got kind of the branches of what happens depending on the prior action or activity, makes a big difference in recognizing where your potential opportunities to gain traction and get better are. Technology is really not integrated very well in these environments, so things aren't working in a systematic approach. Sales isn't normally feeding marketing in a systemized, data-driven approach. Marketing is not feeding sales back, and then you'd have the admin side and the service side of the business as well, which we call operations. Those aren't really feeding sales and marketing either in a systemized approach. So with some of the tools in the marketplace like CEO Juice, eAutomate, Keypoint Intelligence has their Uverse product, and then you take something like a HubSpot, you can map all of that information right into a HubSpot. Now in HubSpot, you can have your website, your marketing, your sales, your fulfillment, right? The after sales process before they are a paying, happy customer. You can have your net promoter scores in there, and everything's working in one ecosystem, including your quotes, which I would come from Uverse, right, at the Keypoint Intelligence. So looking at your tech stack and your ecosystem, and I know it's an investment at times, but the thing that costs everybody the most money is missed opportunity. And then almost always there's a lack of automation or AI. Anybody have any questions or want to throw anything in the chat just to ask on any of these current challenges or add any additional challenges that they're seeing in the marketplace right now with office technology? All right. Here's what I love about you guys. You guys have got an amazing opportunity in front of you. I call you guys the most well-funded startups out there. You guys have got cash flow, you've got infrastructure, you've got a customer base, you've got brand recognition, you've got a lot of different relationships inside the business community. And we know that as you guys continue to grow and evolve and shift these businesses, those are all assets. So I call you guys the most well-funded startups. In my opinion, every business is really a startup each day they go to the office, because you have to continue to iterate and evolve in today's marketplace. Again, cash flow is huge. You know, most startups don't have cash flow. So when it comes to the cross-selling and some of these other ventures that a lot of organizations are wanting to get into with managed services, cybersecurity, production, print, whatever it might be, you guys have got major advantages over somebody trying to start one from scratch, right? Any business. So I think you guys need to remember that. Tons of potential if we can execute. So we need to do a few things here to dominate with a modern go-to-market strategy. We need to map out the process first. So really, we start out with assess. Let's figure out what the landscape looks like. What's the tech stack? What's the current process? Who's involved? When do they do it? How long does it take? All that good stuff is part of assess. Then you go into systemized. That's where you begin to map out the process. What does it look like today? Next is optimize. What's the best way we could be doing this? Where are we missing some things? Then what can we automate inside of the mapping of the process? And then from there, it's execute and continue to improve. Create structure for your team. Develop consistent alignment between sales and marketing, messaging, and results. Maximize revenue and ROI by leveraging KPIs and making sure that you can see the constant little improvements. So we talk a ton about, if you've got 20 KPIs throughout the whole rev gen process and each of them gets just a little bit better, pretty soon you're doubling your revenue. And then lastly, how do you leverage technology to take some weight off of your shoulders and off of the payroll side of the business and get to do more with less or more with the same? So here's an example, and don't worry about trying to read it, but if you start out on the far left, that is the targeting side of mapping this out. So how do people get into your ecosystem? Is it third-party data, which would be Zoom info, webinars, cold calling, trade shows, paid ads, email marketing? Like, how do people get into the ecosystem? Once they get into the ecosystem, you look at the gray and the blue boxes. On the far left, you've got targets been identified. So when a target's been identified, what are the customer's goals? What are their thoughts? What are their emotions, their points of success, and their points of pain? Those are the things they're asking themselves during a buying process, right? That's what they're struggling with. The blue is what your organization should be doing. As you move into the awareness stage where they become aware of the problem, aware that there's a solution, and aware that hopefully you guys are the solution, what types of content do we need to feed them, and what types of tracking do we need to do against that content to make sure we're lead scoring and finding the organizations that are most likely to take a meeting and buy something from us? Move them deeper into the content piece in the attraction phase, which is in consideration. That's your webinars, case studies, etc. So do we have those things set up? So in a lot of instances, you're gonna need to do a content audit, right? Let's figure out what content we have that's of value. We were talking with a fairly large company yesterday, and one of the things we're asking is, does that content have value to the reader, or is it self-serving, right? And if it's products and self-serving, those are okay. You want to put those in occasionally, but you really want to have stuff that they look forward to reading, right? What can they learn from your content? As they lead score and it's time to nurture them, they're going to go to the center of it where you're going to see a call target. Now that we've identified somebody we should reach out to in an automated approach, we make contact. There's different outcomes that happen off of a call. So I'm busy, call me back later. I'm not interested. I'm interested, send more information. They do book a meeting. It's the wrong person. Whatever it is, this is where oftentimes prospects go to die, right? This is where they fall off the wagon a little bit because there's not a systemized approach. What if a call outcome in HubSpot automatically set up a nurture campaign and nurtured that prospect for the next 12 months and stayed in front of them? So right at the right time when their current managed service provider drops the ball, boom, here comes our educational email, has a meeting link in it all the time for a call to action. And before you know it, they're on our calendar and we're getting an opportunity. All right. Now, prospect attends a meeting, so we're going to the intro to quantum call. In your guys' case, it'd be intro to your organization. There's not usually a systemized approach to how we're going to gather that data and get it back into the database so that the other parts of the organization can actually work with it. And so if you think about all of the meetings and sales calls you've paid sales reps to go on, even if they do gather the data and put it in the CRM, it's usually in the notes or a Word doc or a PDF. It's not in structured properties where it can actually set up for automated nurture campaigns or follow-ups or webinar invites. So having a playbook and something like HubSpot helps drive consistency in the way that we execute a discovery call, and then capturing the data, making it a self-healing database. Data is a huge challenge with organizations that we go in and start working with. And it's probably the thing that takes the most work, is trying to clean up and sort their current data, right? So working through that with you is one thing, but once we get it all set up, you want to have a self-healing database the best you can. Again, this is where you can also use Zoom Info to automatically enrich data every single day, keep things live. So if one of your prospects were to, let's say a current customer that really loved you moves to a new company, well, we want to follow them over there and market to them in a systemized approach, not hopefully get lucky and see them on LinkedIn. Okay. Then we move them through the process. This is where maybe, as we talk about, using UVerse from Key Point Intelligence, etc., would be very helpful. Create a solution. So this could be managed services, managed print, document management. What happens and how do we outline that? When do we send them the Net Promoter Score? If they give us a good score, how do we automate asking for a referral or asking for cross-sold business, etc.? Again, I know this can be a dense slide, but it's a key part of the process. Does anybody have any questions on this piece of information here? All right, thank you. So let's talk a little bit about efficiency and growing your revenue. Oftentimes when we go to meet with organizations, they're looking to expand and they're all about net new. What we remind them is the best way to grow your revenue is not lose any. So keep the revenue you have, retain those current customers. That's where the Net Promoter Score and all those account reviews come into place. And most of you know that, but it's about systemizing the approach. Grow, so cross-sell and upsell in your current database. I see too many companies relying only on the human aspect of hoping the reps go out and find opportunities to cross-sell. It's usually not working as well as they had hoped. Their revenue as a percentage for IT or some of these other sectors is really small. We want to take that at an organizational level. Let's say we took all of our current customers, we put a couple of SDRs on an auto dialer, and we're calling into our current customers and cross-selling and setting up meetings for our AEs so that we know that we're covering the whole customer base and getting our opportunities to cross-sell and upsell. Multiply, so that's your referral piece there. How do we automate and systemize asking for referrals after an install when they're the most happier? They just gave us a 10 on the Net Promoter Score. We want to systemize that. Convert, so who's everybody that maybe fits your ideal client profile, deals you've lost in the past, current deals in the pipeline. How do we convert them and move them through? And then lastly, the most expensive business to go get, where you really want some automation, is expand, because that's where you have the least client acquisition cost invested at this moment. So you have to go all the way up the chain to go get that net new customer. Back here in Grow, you've already invested in that client acquisition cost. The only piece you haven't invested in is the cross-sell piece, which is maybe say 10 or 20% of the investment of trying to go get an expand net new. And then if you really put velocity behind it, looking at what's the average deal size and the fact that now you're probably going to close it quicker because it's a current customer, you get a lot of velocity in here, as you know, but most of you don't have a systemized approach to do so. So talking about velocity, number of opportunities times average deal value times our win percentage divided by how long it takes to close that deal. So if we can get more deals at a higher deal value, win them at a higher rate and close them quicker, we all know, obviously, that's what we're trying to do. So how do we do that? Well, We find the best targets that are most engaged through lead scoring. We go after our current customers for a cross-sell, upsell, and we go after the ones that have the highest dollar likelihood of spending the most money. Then we figure we can probably close those the fastest, right? That's, and on the current customers, probably win them at the highest rate too. So again, just thinking about velocity as you're putting things in place. So an example is, 100 meetings with a customer at, $1,000 a month, and you win 25% of those is 25,000. 50 meetings at $10,000 a month, so $500,000 of potential, and you win 10% of those. You guys can see the math is you end up further ahead, obviously, on the second example. So looking at the velocity behind what you're doing is oftentimes a missed component. Believe it or not, we go into a lot of pretty good sized organizations that if we say, hey, have you guys really documented your top 250 prospects? They usually haven't done that, right? Sometimes they have, sometimes they haven't. And if they have, they rarely, if ever, know exactly where they're at on those 250. And when you talk about systemizing, let's say you have an account review form that's in HubSpot, fill it out, that submits, it goes in, it puts a date stamp right inside of HubSpot. So again, back to self-healing database. And now instead of sitting there and trying to figure out which customers you didn't do reviews for and which ones you did, and it takes all next quarter to figure out who you did for last quarter, that's all systemized and can be reported upon, as well as creates a self-healing database. So a good sales plan, right? You need to figure out who's the target, list, message, rep, and belief. So first thing is who's our target audience? How do we create the list of those individuals? Could be through lead scoring, it could be through cold outreach, and we're going to base it on ICP and buyer persona. Once we've done that, we need to sort through what's our unique selling proposition, create our sales messaging, coach the reps, and then we need to track against our goals and objectives with key performance indicators and iterate and make adjustments as we move through the process to ensure we're getting the most velocity that we possibly can out of the situation. As we get this mapped out, now imagine having a key performance indicator, right? Your stats above each of the sections. So the other day we're in someone's database and they had 100,000 or so contacts in their database. They said, well, how many are actually your buyer personas you want to target? That ended up being somewhere around 20% of those 100,000. So they're sitting there thinking they have 100,000, but really they had 20,000 that would be a fit at all. Even keeping track of KPIs for your database is important, right? Then as we move through the marketing component, how many emails are we sending? Open rate, click through, meetings booked. How many are getting open to what percentage? That's where you begin to get in the lead scoring. So how many people did our marketing team move up the ladder in lead scoring? What was that growth? How many calls did we make in nurturing? How many meetings did we set? What was our connect rate? What was our show rate? What was our deal creation rate, average deal size, and then close rate off of those? One key KPI that gets missed a lot is what we call connect rate. So we'll talk to organizations, they're always really obsessed with, 30 calls a day or 50 calls a day. The piece they miss there is what's called the connect rate. So how often did I talk to the person I was aiming to talk to? And that's where something like Connect and Sell as AI and a VA layer in between is putting you in front of the actual person you put on the list you want to talk to every 1 to 3 minutes. That's velocity, that's speed. So if you make 50 calls but you talk to one, that's different than someone making 50 calls and talking to 10 decision makers, right? That part gets missed oftentimes. Then from the connect rate, how often are we converting those conversations into a net new meeting? From the net new, what's the show rate? What's the average deal size? And you can start to get into, when we call CEOs, what's our book rate? When we call this size company, what's our book rate? What's our show rate, deal creation? And you'll get more sophisticated as you kind of move through the process. Obviously, we know that AI is going to play a huge role in the future of sales. Already is. If you guys aren't doing things like listening to your calls through Chorus, right, where it's guiding you through insights, scoring the call, creating the opportunity, right? If you don't have automation and lead nurturing built around your prospects, you're already missing out on a lot of opportunity and advantage that you could have in the marketplace before every single company has it. Again, 5 years from now, just the way that ChatGPT was the fastest platform to ever have 1 million users on it, took 4 days. I think Instagram was 4 months, just to put it in perspective, and Facebook was over a year. That stuff's coming, and it's coming fast. And if you wait 1, 2, 3 years and get behind your competition, it's not that it's not like when they hire great people, they could lose that person. As they build systems and automation, those are put in place. Now they're just tweaking those. So it's a little bit of a lift at the beginning, but the long tail on it is you're going to really be able to dominate the marketplace. So, missed a slide here. We'll go previous. Tech stack integration. One of the things we want to do is we want to come in, take a look at the tech stack, see how we can consolidate, have everything talking to each other, give real-time insights that someone can actually take action on, and move people through the sales and marketing pipelines and into deals for you guys. That's the key, right? Is when the softwares don't talk, there's a real challenge. But if you can get ConnectWise, eAutomate, CEO Juice, HubSpot, Zoom Info, your calling tool, your email tool, all these things connected together with something like HubSpot, now you've got a data lake, and you can actually go in and start to mine insights. And then once you create a certain way that you want to have something look, you can create an active list, an automated workflow, and boom, you're on your way. So HubSpot is a tool that does everything from CRM to marketing automation, integrates with thousands of apps. You can host your website on it, run your service hub, which I wouldn't run the service side of your business, but you could run the admin side of the business through it on fulfillment, and several other areas. But those would be some of the key areas that would, really stand out to you guys. Zoom Info, continuing to add pieces to it all the time. Again, like I said, a lot of people are going, well, how do I get cell phone numbers and email addresses? That's fine, but there's so many more insights that you can do, and cutting up with the data on how do you target, how do you go after the right size companies, how do you figure out when someone left an organization that was a champion of yours, intent. I mean, there's a lot of different pieces that can be taken advantage of, and you want to systemize that go-to-market motion so it's just happening for you. An example, someone shows intent for HubSpot because we sell that, automatically comes into our HubSpot, goes into a workflow, drops an automated voicemail, waits 2 minutes, sends them an automated email. If they open it, we send them to the call list. If they don't, we send them another email the next day, and we just keep that going, and we can have that going and automated for months of nurturing. Connect and sell, again, you just put your team on it. We help with the list building, the scripts, the screenplays. We've got a sales blitz as a service, and then we also do sales as a service where we'll make the calls for you. We had a team of 18 in one day. This is a Midwest company in your guys' industry, 85 net new appointments in one day. Absolutely excited them, right? You think about that. If they do that each week, that'd be 340 net new appointments in 30 days off of 18 reps. Put that into play, and you're talking about probably less than $100 a meeting. Just to put it in perspective, on the street, a meeting goes anywhere from $500 to $1,000, depending on the quality of the meeting and where you're getting it from. But to be able to quickly do that at scale, that's the power of a tool like Connect and Sell. We're one of the top partners in the United States, and we work very closely with these guys, can integrate it into HubSpot or Salesforce, so everything's working back and forth. Can automate off of outcomes, so you kick nurture campaigns, and all kinds of stuff can happen without you guys ever touching anything. So why is this important? For the key reasons we talked about in the beginning. Most of you are trying to hire more great sales reps. as your current sales reps are probably spending 10 to 15% of their time in what I call A time, actually selling somebody something. You think about list building, listening to the phone ring, voicemails, sending the same emails, CRM, driving. You start putting everything together that's not talking and selling to somebody. It's kind of dizzying. It's a huge array of items that have been placed on these guys. So how do we bring efficiency and effectiveness to the thing that's going to drive revenue to your business with the people that already know how to close business for you? So one thing that we talk about is specializing. Most companies are asking their reps to build a list, build emails, make the cold calls, set the meeting, host the meeting, put the quote together, close the deal, keep track of it after, and give account reviews. Well, you're asking somebody to be a data analyst, a marketing expert, a sales development rep, a closer, and an account manager all in one. If you chop that up and you put people in the place of their best strength, you're going to create a lot more velocity within the organization. So how do we just put them in the meeting, right? Whether we're going to have them on Connect and Sell 4 or 5 hours a week, blitzing and quickly getting them in front of another 15 net new opportunities a month, or we're going to have SDRs that sit there and book the appointments for them inside your organization, or you can hire somebody like us to do that. But how do we just put them in the meetings, right? The face-to-face, belly-to-belly, so they're doing what they do best, which is selling and developing relationships and having business acumen conversations. All right, so we've teamed up with Connect and Sell. I think we've said this a couple of times, but we do sales blitz as a service where we'll put your team on. We structure it up. They should already be prospect blocking, but we structure it up. They're going to call for 4 to 5 hours per week on average during a structured time together. We're going to put them on Connect and Sell. We're going to help you develop the lists, right, with Zoom info and the tools you have, the scripts and the screenplays. We're going to provide some coaching, and we'll provide feedback and reporting around the process to structure that up and help you guys really get where you want to go. And if the average rep in your industry right now is averaging about 0.7, 0.8 meetings an hour with this process. So again, if they were doing 20 hours a month, say 15 net new, you had 10 reps. If you could do 150 net new meetings by having your team blitz for 5 hours each week, wouldn't that be phenomenal? So that's one of the things we do. Of course, we can do the calls, and then we can automate through sales sequences, marketing emails, et cetera, to generate leads as well. It's a pretty quick webinar today, a little under 40 minutes, but feel free to scan this code. This is the same QR code as down here, and you can book a meeting with me. I know Mark's going to be sending this out to all the IBPI members. We'll also be sending it out to everybody. So people are going to get an opportunity to watch this, but really appreciate you having us on. Mark, do you want to pop on and we can do some discussion?
Yeah. So, hey, Shawn, thank you so much for spending some time with us. And, I've had the benefit of being able to hear you talk about this a few times now. And I tell you, the thing that just keeps hitting home with me is when you talk about that integration, right? That tech stack integration. And it's not only the things that you're talking about now, like with HubSpot and Zoom Info and Connect and Sell, but it's the stuff that we're using today already, like eAutomate and CEO Juice and Key Point Intelligence and many others. So that's really what hits home for me.
Yeah, well, the dealers need help, right? They acknowledge that, and that's what we're here to help do, right? So whether it's Zoom Info, HubSpot, or Legion, our recommendation, depending on the size of the company and the reps, is let's start the reps with Blitz, and I'll tell you why. Like every business, we've made mistakes, right? We learn as we go. We try to anyways. If we start with all the tech, that's a little bit longer journey. And then about 6 months in, someone's looking at me going, hey, where's my ROI? Hey, why isn't that done, right? It's a more of a commitment, a little bit more of a journey. if we start by putting them on Connect and Sell, getting their team a bunch of meetings really quickly, in 10 business days, you're up and running and getting all kinds of meetings. Then the ROI is there. The thing they really want, which is more business opportunities already there. Then after 90 to 120 days come in, and then that's where we say, okay, now are you ready to build your forever machine, right? Your forever home. Let's put HubSpot in place. Let's put Zoom Info in place. Let's really start to build out the machine. So that's the strategy that we would take. Sometimes dealers want to take a different one, and we'll go down that. But I would reiterate, 10 business days, we can get your results with Sales Blitz, and it's like magic. I mean, literally it is. HubSpot, Zoom Info, that stuff can be a little bit longer journey. So I always say that transparently up front, because after a few years of doing this, we know how to get people what they want the quickest. But long term, you want HubSpot, you want Zoom Info, you want all the pieces of the puzzle. So this motion is just flying. But I want you to make a bunch of money, so we're laughing and high-fiving when I ask for that business, instead of you looking at me, after 120 days to say, now what you need to do, that you have your software in place, is now we need to actually have somebody call on the leads, So I don't know if that's helping me sell it or not, but it's the reality of how this stuff works. I know that I think there's probably somewhere around 200 office equipment dealers that have HubSpot. I know you guys have HubSpot. We have HubSpot. So HubSpot is growing and exploding in the marketplace. And if you're not on a tool like it, I'm saying this just as a presenter here, not trying to sell us, but if you're not on a tool like that, you're going to get left behind, because who has the resources to invest more into their technology? HubSpot or other software programs, right? It's somebody like HubSpot. Every day they're coming out with another amazing feature, and your company is going to miss out on that if they're not getting in the game now with things like Chat GPT, Zoom Info, HubSpot, Connect and Sell, etc.
Yeah, we used Act for such a long time as our CRM, and during COVID, when things were slowing down, we said, look, we've outgrown this Act. We need to find something else. And we researched and looked and decided on HubSpot. And Shawn, what a game changer that was for us. I mean, we went from riding a tricycle to driving a Lamborghini, and we've never looked back. And we've been able to integrate it with our QuickBooks. We've integrated it with other software packages that we have. And it has made us, there's only 3 of us at IBPI. And the thing that I think is the biggest change and improvement for us is that it made us more efficient. When we're doing our marketing, we're much more efficient with HubSpot than we ever have been. And that's what has really meant the most to us.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate it. Does anybody on the call have any questions? If not, no big deal. Well, I appreciate it, Mark, and we'll get you the recording so you can get this out to everybody. Again, if you guys want to book the meeting, scan the QR code, and we'll get some time with you and we'll help you out.
Sounds good. Shawn, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.